Henry and others there. I can't see everyone on my screen right now, but good morning and welcome. Today's class is a topic, well, you'll see. It's very relevant to have the class at this time of year, the class we're having, and you will see why momentarily. But we will begin with the prayers to the Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, today we are talking from Canto 10, Chapter 13. It's text 20 and 21. So before we begin with this verse, why is this particular chapter significant at this time of year? And it doesn't have anything to do particularly with Damodar or Kartik. This is the mystery question. Why is this particular chapter significant at this time of year?
You're talking about Halloween?
Well, that, sort of like that. Brahma did pull off a Halloween trick. That is a good point, but no. How many of you on Halloween dressed up as Hare Krishnas? Okay, so we'll see. And is that Champak? I think I'm a little hard to see. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
I think it's because the 14th chapter is the last chapter that Srila Prabhupada translated, and his disappearance day was just last week.
She gets a piece of Maha today.
Hari.
Yes, actually chapter 13, so you get a half a piece of Maha. So, but you got it exactly right. This is the last chapter Prabhupada translated. Actually, Pradumna did the translations. Prabhupada was too ill to translate. And Pradumna, who is, of course, in the Bhakti Center, was Prabhupada, probably spent more hours with Prabhupada than almost anyone on the planet. And he was expert at languages, in Sanskrit particularly. And at the end, Prabhupada was too weak to do the translation. So Pradumna, you do the translations and the word for word and translate some of the commentaries for me. And then Prabhupada would, very weak on his bed, hardly able to sit up, whisper into the microphone the purports that are this chapter. So this is a very special chapter considering Prabhupada's departure. And you're all very fortunate to have that same Pradumna staying with you. So when you see Pradumna in the hallways of the Bhakti Center, you can say to him, thank you for what you did with Prabhupada. So that's what's going on here. I'm going to set the stage and we'll go to the verse. Aghasura wasn't one of the nice guys, one of the many demons sent by Kamsa to harass Krishna. And Aghasura after he was taken care of, in the way Krishna takes care of demons, then the boys, Krishna and the cowherd boys and the cows, went out to the fields, and then they have a picnic lunch. They bring, as Prabhupada describes, there's tiffin. The modern version would be a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But in those days, they probably ate a little better. Though we all know peanut butter and jelly is a very Vedic sandwich. It's chapati and chutney and lentils all combined. But anyway, they went out, and while they were out in the forest, calves wandered off a little further than they're supposed to. And the boys got anxiety. Oh, we're cowherd boys. They were watching not the cows, but the calves, because they were small boys. And oh no, they're gone. We have to find them. Krishna says, no, don't interrupt your lunch. Eat your lunch. I'll find them. And Krishna wandered off, and the calves were nowhere to be found. And when Krishna came back, the cowherd boys were nowhere to be found. All had disappeared. Now, Krishna is a supreme person. So, they are, somebody said they're calf herd boys. That's a good point. I like that point. So when Krishna for a moment acted bewildered. He thought about it. Where are they? I wonder what's going on. Of course, he's Paramatma, so he knows, but assuming the role in the human form like this, he acted bewildered, says, aha, I know, Lord Brahma took them. Now, Brahma took them, and this will be a point we'll discuss in a little bit, only for a moment. He just wanted to show Krishna that he was very powerful. He's kind of showing off. Hey, Krishna, look what I can do. And all the cowherd boys and the calves were gone. And then Krishna immediately said, I can live with this, and immediately manifested himself into all the cowherd boys and all the calves. So every cowherd boy and every calf was actually Vishnu Tattva, Krishna himself manifested. And they looked exactly like the missing cowherd boys who Lord Brahma had taken to a cave. And they were gone for 1 year. They were in this cave in this mystical slumber, kind of like a bear hibernating. They were all in the cave, cowherd boys and calves hibernating. So they were in this cave, and Krishna manifested as them. And when Krishna manifested as them, they were addressed exactly as they were when they left. And they looked exactly. If one of the cowherd boys had a dimple, this replacement cowherd boy had a dimple. If one of them spoke with I don't know, I'm guessing, let's say a speech impediment, that one spoke that way, the way sometimes young boys speak in their cute way, identical. And then Krishna took them home, and they went to their parents' house, and they looked identical. There was no difference. And what's that term for somebody who looks identical to you but is not blood related? I forgot the term.
Doppelganger?
Yes, doppelganger. And that's what happened. They were identical in every regard. Sometimes somebody will walk up to you on the street. Are you so-and-so? No, I never heard of so-and-so. You look so much like them. I mean, this has probably happened to all of you. I remember Hamsa Duda, our late godbrother, he always used to walk up to me and say, so how are you doing, Woody? Because my name is Brahma. But he thought I was Woody Allen. So he would say that to me all the time. Why would people think I'm Woody Allen? Anyway, that's a whole other story. So Lord Brahma was trying to show off a little bit, and Krishna then made these Vishnu Tattvas, and they went home, and everybody at the parents all love their children and love Krishna. And they kind of love, their love for Krishna was there, and naturally their love for their children was there. And they were kind of divided their loyalties that way, because they love Krishna so much. But it's my own child, but I love Krishna. Now their own child was Krishna. And when their children came home, their parents' love for their child increased hundreds of times. I love my child so much, but what happened? My affection went up. And the mothers, when the cows came home to the calves, the cow mothers just love their calves so much more. And they loved them so much more to begin with. Then they loved them so much more then, because all these were Vishnu Tattva. So Krishna is the only male I've ever met who's good at multitasking. A lot of ladies are somehow by nature pretty good at it. But men, we pretend we're good at multitasking. Well, we're terrible at it. I mean, we just screw everything up. But Krishna is the one male who can multitask everything. And he did. So one time he's teaching Brahma a lesson, then he's giving all the cowherd, he's giving all the villagers of Vrindavan who really wanted Krishna as their son, a chance to have Krishna as a son. He's letting the cows actually have a more intimate relationship with Krishna because now he's the calves. I mean, amazing story. So this is the scene we're setting here. And this is, again, the last chapter that Prabhupada wrote the purports for when he was with us. I'm going to just read a translation from the beginning of the chapters, again, setting the stage. O King, kindly hear me with great attention. Although the activities of the Supreme Lord are very confidential, no ordinary man being able to understand them, I shall speak to you about them for you. For spiritual masters explain to submissive disciples even subject matters that are very confidential and difficult to understand. Now, this subject matter, the theme of our class will be how difficult this is to understand. And I'm going to give you a modern analog to put that in context. So we're going to get to the verses, and we'll go to verse 20 and 21. I got to cue something up here. While I'm doing that, I'm going to ask someone to read the verse and read the translation. Who would like to be the reader for me? Do we have a volunteer? You can just unmute. Not one volunteer. Where's Adi? He always does this.
Are you going to put the verse on the screen, Prabhu, and then one of us can read it?
Oh, I was expecting that should have been done. Okay, I'll read it. It's not queued up then for the screen. Usually it is. Sorry about that.
Champakalata looks like she can read it.
Oh, Champakalata, you have it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Verse 20, right?
20 and 21.
Okay. You want me to do the Sanskrit and the English?
The Sanskrit, but not the word for word because of time.
Okay. Swayamatmatmako vatsan Vativayatma vatsapai Kridanatma viharescha Sarvatma pravishadvajam. Translation. Now expanding himself so as to appear as all the calves and cowherd boys, all of them as they were, and at the same time appear as their leader, Krishna entered Vrajabhumi, the land of his father, Nanda Maharaj, just as he usually did while enjoying their company. Purport. Krishna usually stayed in the forest and pasturing ground, taking care of the calves and cows with his associates, the cowherd boys. Now that the original group had been taken away by Brahma, Krishna himself assumed the forms of every member of the group, without anyone's knowledge, even the knowledge of Baladev, and continued the usual program. He was ordering his friends to do this and that, and he was controlling the calves and going into the forest to search for them when they went astray, allured by new grass. But these calves and boys were he himself. This was Krishna's inconceivable potency, as explained by Srila Jiva Goswami, Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Haladini Shaktir Ashmat. Radha and Krishna are the same. Krishna, by expanding his pleasure potency, becomes Radharani. The same pleasure potency, Ananda Chinmaya Ras, was expanded by Krishna when he himself became all the calves and boys and enjoyed transcendental bliss in Vrajabhumi. This was done by the Yogamaya potency and was inconceivable to persons under the potency of Mahamaya. Text 21. Tatad vatsan pitan nitva tatad goste niveshasha tatad atma bhavar rajams tatat sadma pravishtavan. Translation. O Maharaj Parikshit, Krishna, who had divided himself as different calves and also as different cowherd boys, entered different cowsheds as the calves and then different homes as different boys. Purport. Krishna had many, many friends, of whom Sridham, Sudam, and Subal were prominent. Thus Krishna himself became Sridham, Sudam, and Subal and entered their respective houses with their respective calves.
Thank you very much. You read very nicely. So we have, this is very mysterious. How does this work? Now, I mean, here we have, all of a sudden, Lord Brahma appears and steals them. And then Krishna does this expansion. This is weird stuff, isn't it? This is really weird stuff. Also, let's look at the time factor. How much time passed between when Lord Brahma took the boys and then Lord Brahma came back to see what's going on? How much time passed? Can somebody tell me?
A moment.
Maybe. What else? Well, that's true, but
1 year.
well, which was it? A moment or a year?
It was in human calculation, like
Yeah.
on the earthly planet, it's 1 year.
Yeah. And we see this in reality. For example, Prabhupada had mentioned an example. When a satellite goes around the planet, it takes 1 hour. So that's its 1 year. Hours for our Earth to go around one time. I mean, that's 1 day. For ours is 24 hours. Now, time as something relative is an odd concept, that there can be different times. Turns out, according to Einstein's special theory of relativity, this is all true. For example, if, let us say, we have a twin, we have two Henrys, and one of them has each of them has a really superb Rolex watch, keeps perfect time. And one Henry, we send off to the moon and back. So he goes very fast. Rockets go 25,000 miles an hour. And he comes back. And the other Henry, his twin, is on Earth. Will the clocks be the same? Does somebody know? They'll actually be different. Microsecond. And this has been done many, many times, this experiment repeated. In fact, all of your global positioning satellites, your GPS satellites, have to be adjusted all the time because they're moving very fast in outer space. The clocks move at a slightly slower pace than the ones on Earth. And if they don't regularly send adjustments to them, what happens is you'll end up in the Bronx when you really wanted to be in Brooklyn. And we don't want that to happen to anybody. So this weird concept of Einstein that time is relative has been proven over and over again to be the facts of science. You all know the equation E equals mc squared. Well, what does that equation only works if time can be compressed when we're going faster. Now, if somebody would like to explain why, when it's question times, I can try to go into an explanation of why that works. Nevertheless, it's true. Now, this is very mysterious. one of the most famous physicists of the 20th century, brilliant, brilliant physicist who came up with many of the theories of quantum mechanics, has a quote. I'll give you his quote, which is very much fits in with the same thing that is being said herein, that this is difficult to understand. And Richard Feynman said, if you think you understand quantum mechanics, you don't understand quantum mechanics. And so there are inconceivable things. Einstein, when asked about quantum entanglement, another topic we can get into, very, very mysterious, how you have an object on Earth, and let's say it's an object on the moon, and they're entangled. And one of them goes into state A, and it automatically makes instantaneously the one on the moon must be in state B, maybe up or down or a different color or some different state. Inconceivable. And Einstein said that's impossible because the speed limit of the universe is the speed of light. You get a ticket if you go faster than the speed of light. That ticket you get is called oblivion. It can't happen. And so here you have instantaneous information being sent, much instantaneous. That means faster than the speed of light. So Einstein said, this is spooky action. Feynman says you really can't understand it. So in modern quantum physics, we have such phenomena going on. So we're reading in the Bhagavatam, we may say this is far out, mystical, whatever. Modern physics is also far out and mystical. So these things are not even so far outside the human view. So we have time dilation, we have multiverses. What's a multiverse? Now, a multiverse is one theory, just a theory, not proven. Time dilation is proven, multiverse isn't. That there are multiple verses going on. We have, there is a universe in which I am sitting here speaking to you. That's this universe. As another universe where I might be sitting in a Bhagavatam class. Right, this is craziness. I'll give you a story about Brahma, and then I'll give you a video clip that will just bewilder you more. But that's the purpose of what I'm trying to say today. So Lord Brahma once went to Dwarka to visit Krishna. And Lord Brahma knocked at the door, and the gatekeepers came and said, oh, who's there? Said, oh, it's Lord Brahma. I come to see Lord Vishnu. And said, oh, just wait a minute, let me tell him. And then the doorkeeper comes back and says, the Lord wants to know, which Brahma are you? And Brahma's like, which Brahma? I am the Brahma. There is one Brahma. I am four-headed Brahma. It's just like I'm four-eyed Brahma. He said, I am four-headed Brahma. That's what do you mean, which Brahma? What a silly question. And so then the doorkeeper comes back and says, okay, you can come in. And Brahma comes in and says to the Lord, why did you ask that question? And the Lord just smiles. And when this is a story from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And when he smiles, all the Brahmas show up. I mean, millions of Brahmas, and some have four heads. Our Brahma only had four. Some from much larger universes have thousands of heads, maybe a million heads. I mean, we can't conceive of this in our mind, but and they all come, and they all can't see each other. They think that each of them is the only Brahma. Only our Brahma can see all the other Brahmas. And then they all, at the same time, offer obeisances, and all their heads hit the ground. And it's such a sound you can't even imagine. such a tumultuous sound beyond your imagination. And then at that point, the Brahmas say, you called for us, Lord. And they said, yeah, I just want to see how you're doing. Everything's fine. And they went back. That was in essence, in modern jargon, that was the essence of their conversation. Hey, how you doing, Brahma? All's well. Goodbye. And that was their conversation. That's a New Yorkese way of saying it. And so this conversation, and our Brahma then became very humbled by this. So this is another case here of our Brahma becoming humble. But multiverses? Well, we're going to have to talk about that for a moment. I'm going to play a little clip by Yogeshwar's brother. Now, Yogeshwar's brother is a very famous quantum physicist or physicist at Columbia University in New York. The most expensive shows ever produced on public television were his shows on cosmos, string theory, and the multiverse. So a very, very famous physicist. We're going to listen to him just for a moment to show you that modern physics and what's saying the Bhagavatam are both, as we would say in the olden days, far out.
Meant everything, the totality, every star, every galaxy, the whole shebang. So what sense could there possibly be in having more than one everything? And what we have found in research that actually dates back a number of decades, but most vigorously relatively recently, is that our mathematical investigations are suggesting that what we have thought to be everything may actually be a tiny part of a much grander cosmos. And that grander cosmos can contain other realms that seem to rightly be called universe, just as our realm has been called universe, which means that you have many universes, multiple universes, which we call the multiverse.
Physicist Sean Carroll claimed that our universe would have to be in an isolated island universe in order for it to not interact with other universes. Otherwise, our universe would be affected by the ripples from bubbles of another universe that it bumps into as it passes by. Multiverse models are problematic because they cannot explain why the Big Bang happened at all, or why the laws of physics are as they are today, which seems to follow from mathematical constants.
So how can you gain confidence in an idea that speaks of realms that we can't see, that we can't touch, we can't visit, we can't observe directly? In some versions of the multiverse, there can be subtle connections between the universes that might allow us to have some experimental window onto them. But hold that to the side for the moment. Let's think about the ones where you couldn't visit them. Well, why do we think about these things? Well, we have a belief founded upon really hundreds of years of experience that math can provide a gateway to reality. It can provide a window onto a reality that at the moment the math is being done.
I'm going to move ahead a little bit.
This new picture of reality is sufficiently compelling that many physicists, including me, are taking it seriously and investigating it vigorously.
The concept of multiple universes depends on the conception of reality as a four-dimensional space-time continuum, which everything that could possibly happen does happen in some universe. It is often misinterpreted as implying there exists many copies of you, and indeed there are different possible versions or replicas of you in other universes, similar to how different possible ways for you to watch this video can be imagined as occurring in parallel worlds. However, this idea is more easily understood by considering non-trivial quantum mechanics examples such as Schrödinger's cat. Schrödinger's cat can simultaneously both be alive and dead, but such states.
Okay, so I hope I bewildered you sufficiently with this. Now, so here we are reading the Bhagavatam and saying, this is inconceivable. Well, I have a lot easier time conceiving what's in the Bhagavatam than what Brian Greene is conceiving. Now, Brian Greene is doing this not because he's high on some drugs and coming up with something weird. He's doing it because there's a problem in physics that needs to be solved. is called the collapse of the wave function. For those who know something about this, this is something those of us at the Bhaktivedanta Institute and our dear Murli Gopal and others are extremely familiar with. And in order to solve it, one of the solutions are that, well, there really are many universes. Now, we're not talking many galaxies. The universe contains many galaxies. Milky Way is one of them. There's many universes that are existing simultaneously in one universe. We can see, who do I see here? I see Henry. In one universe, Henry is watching the class. In another universe, Henry is giving the class. Because all these are possible. I mean, they're all possible. So everything that's possible is somehow happening, but we can't conceive it. And this is, and the reason they come to this conclusion is the math blows up without this conclusion. And with this conclusion, the math starts working, but that doesn't mean that's the reality, but they're struggling to understand reality. So I'm going to read a little bit from a purport later on. Lord Brahma was mystified about Krishna's opulence because his opulence was atakarya, inconceivable. As Feynman says, quantum mechanics is inconceivable. With one's limited senses, one cannot argue about that which is inconceivable. Therefore, the inconceivable is called a chinta, that which is beyond chinta, our thoughts and arguments. A chinta refers to that which we cannot contemplate but have to accept. Srila Jiva Goswami has said, unless we accept a chinta in the Supreme, we cannot accept the conception of God. In other words, unless we think that God must be beyond our conception, we cannot understand God. Prabhupada then says, very important words, this must be understood. Therefore, we say that the words of Shastra should be taken as they are without change, since they are beyond our arguments. That doesn't mean we don't try to understand it. We don't question if Krishna is the taste of water. That's Shastra. What we question is, how is Krishna the taste of water? That is philosophical speculation, which Prabhupada says intelligent people engage in. So again, we may not question if Krishna's a taste of water. He says so. But how is that possible? That is the proper inquiry. And that's what the Bhagavatam is about. Bhagavatam is question and answers. So when something's inconceivable, it doesn't mean you don't ask questions about it. You must. That's what the whole Bhagavatam is. The whole Gita is question and answers. That's what it's about. But we're accepting that Krishna is a taste of water. We just don't understand how. We go on. We accept in the 5th canto that Bhumandala is this inconceivable place. But if we read Sadaputra's books, we start understanding how that can be. So it can be inconceivable and we can get greater understanding at the same time. So that which is achinta cannot be ascertained by argument. People generally argue, but our process is not to argue, but to accept the Vedic knowledge. We accept what Krishna says, and then we try to understand it. So that's the process of descending knowledge, process of ascending knowledge you just saw, where Brian Greene is trying to understand something that's not understandable. And we're not denying quantum physics. Every one of you has a cell phone, I imagine. If you don't, you're very lucky. Your life is peaceful and things are good, but you probably have one. That cell phone is run by principles of quantum mechanics. Without quantum mechanics, we don't have transistors, and without transistors, we don't have integrated circuits. Without integrated circuits, there's no computers or cell phones. Your light display on there, your LED lights, is simply a quantum mechanical effect. So all of this, I mean, there is quantum mechanics is part of what we're living with, but part of it is inconceivable. So I'm using that as an analogy to say when there's inconceivable things in our world, as Richard Feynman says, if you understand it, if you say you understand it, you don't, and a way that as a metaphor for dealing with this incredible story here. So why did this happen, this adventure? Well, Prabhupada explains in the later purport, Krishna was playing like a dramatic actor. This is 3 purports before Prabhupada's last purport he ever wrote. Krishna was playing like a dramatic actor. By the way, the purports in this chapter tend to be long, even though it's at the very end. Because Brahma had some false prestige, thinking he had some power, Krishna showed him his real position. And then Prabhupada goes on to describe the incident I told you about Lord Brahma in Dwarka. And at the very end, and the last verse that Prabhupada translated, Lord Brahma rises gradually, wiping his 2 eyes. Lord Brahma looked up at Mukunda, Lord, and Krishna. Lord Brahma, his head bent low, his mind concentrated, his body trembling, very humbly began with faltering words to offer praises to Lord Krishna. Now, here's where we differ from the modern physicist. And this is the difference between the mentality of somebody who's studying Bhagavatam and somebody who's not. When Lord Brahma saw the inconceivable power of Krishna, he became humble, said, oh my gosh, wow. When the physicists see the inconceivable energy of Krishna in terms of quantum mechanics and time dilation and multiverses, whatever's out there, they go, gosh, I can conquer this. They can't. Admittedly can't. They can hardly understand it, but I can conquer it. Instead of looking at it and saying, wow, God's creation is amazing. It's amazing. For example, when we look at a painting, let's say we're looking at a painting of Krishna or the Mona Lisa, whatever painting we're looking at, but not a can of soup. That was a stupid painting. Anyway, but we're looking at we're looking at a painting. What is it we're thinking when we're looking at it? We're seeing an image. We're saying, this is amazing. This is beautiful. We are not looking at it like a chemist does. Oh, this white and this paint must be titanium dioxide, and the black color, that must be a carbon derivative. And we're not looking at that kind of detail. We're looking at it and saying, what an amazing artist created it. So that's the difference between how we might look at it and a physicist. We're looking at, when we see this creation, either Lord Brahma's amazing experience or the quantum physicist's amazing experience, or Isaac Newton, who was a great theist, saw the laws of nature. Oh, these amazing laws of nature. We're thinking about the creator of this, and the mundane scientists are thinking how to conquer it and use it for their benefit. So that's the difference in mentality. And that is what Prabhupada is trying to teach us in the very last chapter he ever wrote on in the Bhagavatam. So with that, I'll stop here and see if there are any questions, comments, reflections.
Wow. Thank you for entertaining us, enlightening us, blowing our mind, and bringing us closer to Krishna. Okay, Temple Room has a question.
Okay.
Hi, Krishna, Brahmacharya Prabhu. Thank you for such a wonderful class. I have a question. Yeah, that was really blowing my mind, like the multiverses video, and the concept that we could be like in multiple universes at the same time. And I'm just wondering, like, is there anything in the Srimad Bhagavatam about that? Like, what is our stance as devotees? You know, are we only in one universe with one body? Are we actually in multiple universes with multiple bodies? And then how does that work in terms of like karma, transmigration of the soul, if we're in multiple universes doing different things?
Okay, well, I'll give you the simple answer, yes. Okay, next question. No, I'm only joking.
No, that's not okay.
Well, first thing is, we don't know that there are multiverses. It's a mathematical problem, and that's how it was solved. Now, we do know that there are Lord Brahma did experience multiple universes when he went to Dwarka and saw all the Brahmas come. And we know that when Lord Vishnu is lying down, he's breathing out unlimited universes. That's what the Bhagavatam directly says. So,
Yeah.
that part we know, and when he breathes in, the universes come back. And modern cosmology, this is an area that the Bhaktivedanta Institute, which I direct, we have 20 astrophysicists working on it to explain these issues. So, I mean, it's a major issue. But to answer your question, the multiverse, that there's many of that, I could be doing this, I could be doing that. It is a wild speculation to solve a mathematical problem. It has never been demonstrated as the actual reality. It is something that should be Brian Greene and others. He didn't come up with the idea, but others have conceived of to deal with a problem in math in solving the collapse of the Schrodinger equation. So this is one theory they come up with, but there's no evidence that that theory is the reality of where we're living, because as you pointed out, we do have certain karma, there's certain free will, and the people who are writing this, the people who come up with these theories cannot explain free will. The question is the universe determined? In the days of Isaac Newton, even though he was a strong theist, in his days he came up with equations of motion, momentum, gravity, and then the idea, the deterministic idea comes up. Well, if I had a big enough supercomputer, one of these quantum computers that are just coming out, the gigantic supercomputer, we actually have a supercomputer now. It's called the internet, with hundreds of millions of computers plugged into it. So let's say they could all work on the same problem at once, and they could do everything, and they could take all the motions of the universe and program it in. Of course, that can't happen. It's too complicated. But let's say it could happen. Then we could predict what my next word would be. It's all determined. There's no free will. And that's one theory. That theory has so many loopholes in it. The real key, and this is the second area where the Bhaktivedanta Institute works on, one is cosmology, the other big area is consciousness. Its consciousness is not material. If it's beyond the body, then that explains so many things. It explains free will, and then karma fits in, everything fits in, that the whole universe is not entirely deterministic, that some computer is predicting what we're doing. Otherwise, there's no responsibility, there's no ethics, there's no love, there is just a very cold universe. And since by our own experiences, we know that's not the case, then the BI's thing is how to demonstrate it. But as far as the multiverse, you pointed out very cleverly that creates a lot of problems, like karma and identity and all that. And there are a lot of problems. My own opinion, this is just my own, don't accept this as Shastra, is that it's a phantasmagoria because they really don't understand how the universe works. So they had to come up with something. But that's something that our BI nerds will be putting out. We're putting a book out on some of these topics within the next year. So it's a good question you asked, but I don't think Brian Greene knows Shastra. He's actually a very nice person. I think that's a signal to me. So thank you very much. It's at the Bhakti Center. When you see Pradyumna, make sure you thank him. And everyone have a good and blessed day. I'm so happy to see all my friends here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brahmatirtha Prabhu. Great class. Thank you very much, dear devotees. One takeaway that I personally have from this class is that if I see Schrodinger's cat, I'll give him prasadam. Bhima Prabhu, is that a valid approach? You're muted. You're muted.
Schrodinger's cat is asking a great question, which is, when are you and Garangi going to play for us in the morning?
I didn't know you were Schrodinger's cat. I didn't know it was you.
That's me. Cheshire cat. Sitting on a mushroom. Sitting on a tree.
Yeah, it's coming. We'll do that. We'll do that.
Will you?
To get them.
Everybody's listening right now. Is that a promise, Prabhu? Is that your word?
A vow. It's a vow.
Oh,
Kartik vow.
Let's hope you keep this vow better than you keep your other vows.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Sundarananda Prabhu, Rich Bhakti, Amesh Prabhu, Amita Kishori Didi, Yogeshwari, Arjuna Prabhu, bound down to you, Dana Keli Prabhu, Suzanne, Aaron, Dana Krishna Zadharani. Love you all. Haribol. Have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna.